Now, some of you may be wondering, if the Bible's prediction about Judgment Day is that it's an event that won't take place for at least 1,000 years in our future, why is it that some Christians seem to be so obsessed with this idea that some major world event is going to happen in our lifetime that is cataclysmic and of biblical proportions? Why do Christians believe that? Well, let me see if I can offer you an explanation for that. Now, I'm going to be reading again from the Bible. I'm going to be reading this time from the Old Testament. So if you have a Bible that contains both the Old Testament and the New Testament, please follow along. I'll be reading in the book of Daniel, chapter 12, in verse 4. This is God speaking, and he says, "But you, Daniel, keep the words secret and the book sealed until the time of the end. Many shall be running back and forth, and evil shall increase." Basically, Daniel was a prophet, and in this prophecy, he was describing things that would be happening at the end of the world. And the instruction from God is that the understanding of what would happen at the end of the world would not be understood, would not be grasped and realized until we approach the time of the end. So you say, well, how do people know, or why do people think that we are living near the time of the end? Well, the key to it is in this verse. Many shall be running back and forth. If you study this out, the meaning of it is that people can travel great distances in a very short period of time, and they'll be doing it as part of their everyday lives. Well, that is a description of the 20th century. We have planes that can fly halfway across the world. We have trains that can fly across their rails or sometimes hover above their rails at the speed of a bullet. We have automobiles that cover the planet, and people have the freedom of mobility. They can move about this planet in ways unlike they've ever been able to do in all of the history of the world. And the second mark here is that evil shall increase. Now, I'm not going to debate the possibility that today we have more violence and evil than has ever been present any time in the world's history. But if you look at the news and you see that almost every day there's wars taking place, people being violently killed, that murderers and those who commit crime seem to commit more vile crimes, more heinous crimes than in days gone by, then you may be persuaded, as I am, that evil is increasing in our world, and in a way that's unlike previous times in history. So those markers, when compared to this verse, could indicate that the time we are living in is a time near the prediction of a major biblical event. So I'm going to turn in the Bible to the New Testament, to Matthew chapter 24. I'm going to start reading at verse 21. Again, if you have a Bible, I encourage you to open it up and read it for yourself. These are the words of Jesus. "For at that time there will be great suffering, such as has not been from the beginning of the world until now, no, nor will be." The time of this great world event that's being described, that some people refer to as Judgment Day, which is really not Judgment Day, has a different name. It's called the Day of the Lord. And the Day of the Lord is a time when God is going to come and judge the world, but it's not because of these petty little everyday sins that we live with in our lives. Certainly, those are things that we need to be rid of in our personal lives. But when God comes at the day of the Lord to bring judgment, he's going to be coming to bring judgment for a particular event that's going to happen. And what it says is this event, this time of suffering, would be unlike anything that has happened in the world up to that point, and it will never happen again. So let me ask you this question. When you look back in history to World War II, to Nazi Germany, an event that happened in Nazi Germany was a systematic extermination of Jewish people. The Jews, according to the Bible, are God's chosen people. And Hitler made it his mission to try to destroy the Jewish race. Millions of Jews were exterminated in death camps and their bodies burned. And to me, this is the most violent, vile, and heinous crime in all of history that I can perceive in my life. The Holocaust is very deeply moving when you look at the pictures and you see all the human suffering and tragedy. And yet the Bible says there's a time coming that will be worse than has ever been at any point in Earth's history. So this is enough to get anyone moved in their spirit, in their heart. And I share that feeling with many Christians that when this event that the Bible predicts happens, it will be terrible, tragic, and it's something to be concerned about. But this is not Judgment Day. Tomorrow is Sunday, May the 22nd, and Spirit and Truth Fellowship of Knoxville is scheduled to have a church service. I'll be delivering a sermon called Promise Precedes Consequence. And I'll be touching on some of these points in that sermon, but of course the sermon was planned quite a bit in advance before I became aware of this prediction of the Judgment Day. So it's somewhat coincidence, somewhat providence that this sermon will fall on the day after the predicted Judgment Day. I hope that you'll look for our video. I'll try to have it posted as quickly as possible after the sermon is delivered. Please look for it, and I hope you'll check back with us from time to time. Thanks again. I'm David Spakes, Spirit and Truth Fellowship.